Now, you're
Like,
making wine from a number of climats throughout those three crus. In a nutshell, how would you describe to someone who is not all that familiar with Beaujolais the difference between Brouilly, Côte de Brouilly, and Fleury when it comes to what one finds in the glass? Now, that's a generalization, obviously, but for the beginner, shall we say?
yeah, sure. It's quite easy to remember for our appellation because Fleury, it's the name of the village and it means flower,
Yes.
floral, and it's by chance the same in the glass. So it means when you have a Fleury, the wines are very floral. That's very easy. Fleury is one of the most granitic crus in Beaujolais among the 10 crus. And it's always very elegant, always very delicate. We always start a tasting of our wines with a Fleury because it's always more elegant and delicate than the others. Brouilly is all about fruit, just bold, red, big fruit, very easy drinking, very easy to understand. But Brouilly is very difficult to give you just one style of Brouilly because Brouilly is the
Right.
largest cru in Beaujolais, and you have many different styles of Brouilly. La Chaize, we are very pleased to have a lot of vineyards in Brouilly, mid slopes, not in the valley. So it means that we have a better exposition and a better microclimate for growing long-lasting wines. We have very good terroirs in Brouilly, but it's very difficult to generalize. Let's say that the fruit leads in Brouilly. And Côte de Brouilly, it's very easy also because it's a very small appellation, just being around the Mont Brouilly. And mainly, the main terroirs in this area is composed of blue stones. And these blue stones have a very uh, big influence in terms of minerality and volcanic aspects in the wines. In terms, it's not a volcanic terroir. So Beaujolais is not considered as volcanic terroirs, but the influence on the wines in Côte de Brouilly is really minerality and a special touch in your mouth that could bring you back into some area like Côte Rouennaise and Côte du Forez and Auvergne, because you have this feel in your mouth that it's almost mineral and volcanic.
When you were speaking about the soils of Fleury, they are more akin to that kind of pink granite you were speaking of before.
Yeah, exactly. Pink granite, it's very difficult to summarize soils in Beaujolais because
Yeah.
there was a big inquiry and analysis of all the soils in Beaujolais for 10 years. We have maybe today in France the most detailed maps of the soils, more detailed than any other region in France because the project was very recent. We have made holes everywhere, so we know exactly which soils are where. And in fact, the conclusion of the study was that the soils of Beaujolais are really complex, really old, and you have many different types. So it's very difficult to just in 1 minute summarize it. But in the crus, in the north of Beaujolais, not in the south, but in the north, let's say that you have two main soils, subsoils that dominate, and which are pink granite and blue stones. You have different families, of course, it's more complicated than that. But to summarize,
Yes.
the majority is composed of pink granite, for example, Chirouble, Fleury, some of the most granitic crus in Beaujolais. And then you have the blue stones of the Côte de Brouilly, the Côte du Py in Morgon, which is very
Yeah.
famous, and some in Juliena too. Juliena is also composed a lot of blue stones, but blended with granite too, which is very complicated. But let's say that Gamay, on these very poor soils, because those soils are very poor, it's very stressed and give you the best wines possible. That's why Gamay in the valley, on the flat land, on clay and limestone, could be too rich and not giving you the best wines that you can
Yep.
have with the Gamay.
I understand. Now let's get to the two wines that we have in market here. We have the 2019 Pouilly-Fuissé and we have the 2019 Brouilly. Would you care to speak to both of those? You said before that you're in partnership with a grower in Pouilly-Fuissé, and that's your kind of dabbling into the world of white wine. Tell us a bit about that wine.
Yeah, it's a very small production for a very young wine grower that work like us is converting to organic too. And the parcel is just below the Roche de Solutré. Roche de Solutré is very famous in Pouilly-Fuissé. And this parcel is facing south. quite high in altitude. But this terroir of Pouilly-Fuissé gives you very rich wine, very rich style of white wine. So the idea is that since we produce this wine since 2018, we have decided to stop the malolactic fermentation each time, every year, to be sure that we balance this richness of this wine with the fresh acidity.
Right.
So it's a very balanced wine. Pouilly-Fuissé, it's very difficult to say there is one style of Pouilly-Fuissé, but it's still a wine that you need to drink with some food. Of course, it's a very fish-friendly white wine, for example. But sometimes you have very rich and very oaky and buttery style of Pouilly-Fuissé, and sometimes you can have very acidic and tense style of Pouilly-Fuissé. We want it to be just in the middle. That's why you have both the richness of the terroir, which give you almost exotic fruits, and something like something between a Chenin and a Viognier, which is very, very surprising and interesting. And this is completely balanced by the fact that we stop the malolactic and give you extra freshness at the end and a very elegant bitterness. That's perfect for a lot of food and wine pairing.
What kind of cooperage does it see?
This one has seen 50% stainless steel and 50% big oak cask. We are very lucky to have the longest cellar in Beaujolais, 108 meters. And we have completely, of course, renovated this cellar, which is beautiful. And we have invested in 50 new oak vats.
Yeah, it was quite impressive. I saw the picture.
Yeah,
it was pretty
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, it's huge. It's a tradition in Beaujolais to have food, big oak cask, and we decided to keep to this tradition. And we installed 90 hectoliters, 60 hectoliters, and 30 hectoliters oak casks. And the Pouilly-Fuissé is matured in a 30 hectoliters oak cask. So it's not the biggest one, but it's still a big one, bigger than a demi-muit, and of course much bigger than a small barrel. And this just gives you the extra oxidation of the oak, just the maturation that you need in this white wine, but not with too much impact of new oak. We have this feeling that the big oak casks don't give you a new oak impact that a small barrel can give you, which is very interesting for us. And 50% of stainless steel, 50% of oak cask give you a perfect balance again to have good maturation with a long maturation, but not too much to have too much makeup on the wine.
You also make some wines using gravity entirely, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. We have managed to connect the old cellar, which is below the old winery, with the new winery we built inside the hill, inside the mountain. We needed some more space, so we decided to build a concrete storage area to store the wines and to bottle the wines. And we managed to connect the two cellars together. And this connection allowed us to create a full gravity system, which means from the grapes that are completely harvested by hand to the vinification in the vats, to the maturation downstairs in the cellar, and then in the cellar, in the new winery inside the mountain, everything is by gravity and the wine doesn't see any pump. And then it enters a big vat, a big stainless steel tank that's going into an elevator, and the elevator just go up into the bottling area. So from the beginning, some of the best cuvées, mainly the best single vineyards, will not see any pump from the beginning, which is amazing for low intervention vinification.
Excellent. And let's speak about the 2019 Brouilly.
19 was a very, very interesting vintage for us. As I told you, it was so many hot vintages since 2009. If you just accept maybe 12 and 13, a lot of vintages are now very hot, very early. We harvest in August. Fortunately for us, 19 was one of the latest recent vintages. We harvested at the beginning of September. And it's a good combination between good maturity. Of course, the fruits is very ripe. You have very, very dense red fruits, almost black. But the color is very fresh, and the wines are very fresh. It's not heavy. It's not a heavy cellar vintage that could have been in 2009 or 2015. So the balance it's very interesting. We call 19 a very classical Beaujolais vintage. And Brouilly, this is our classical flagship cuvée. It's a blend of different single vineyards located around the chateau. We are very lucky to have the vineyards around the chateau in Brouilly are contiguous. It's just one piece. So it means that in terms of vinification, in terms of work in the vineyards, everything is near the castle and the winery, and you have no neighbors that can spread some pesticides, herbicides. Everything is protected, and we have in total 350 hectares if you include the woods, which means we have a lot of forests that protect biodiversity and protect the vineyards. So it's very interesting. And this Brouilly 19 is a blend of the best terroirs that we have around the castle, and is really a wine that you just share with friends, aperitif or not. If you want to drink it with salaison or with ham, anything, it's possible. It's a wine that really versatile that you can drink at any moment. And it's really a wine that we want to be shared by everyone. And then you have the single vineyards for the wine that you can leave in your cellar for 10 years, 15 years. But this Brouilly 19 is really the wine you just open with friends and enjoy it on itself.
So the fruit for the 2019 would have come from the older Gobelets vines, right?
In the majority, yes, because in 19 we only produced 60 hectares. So we are at our very low point of production.
I see.
And of course, the young vines have not yet been in production. So we kept what we needed to keep in terms of the minimum of a vital production for us from the Goblet. Some of the Goblet have already been trellised, so that's possible. That's inside this blend, but mainly it's Goblet. Yeah, you have some vineyards, especially Le Clos. We have a very special vineyard located behind the castle. The lieu-dit is called La Chaize. We have the same name in the lieu-dit and for the estate, which is a great luck. And inside this lieu-dit, we have a former clos that has been destroyed, and we are going to rebuild it. And it's approximately 1 hectare. It will be a historical monument in France. You only have 3 clos in France that are historical monuments. So the Clos de la Chaize will be the 4th. And in fact, these vineyards were already trellised and already double cordon royal. So some of the former team, they have already understood that it was necessary to change the viticulture approach. And some of the vineyards, especially Le Clos, was already trellised. And trellising system in Beaujolais is only accepted in the appellation system, I think, since 2003. So it's very recent. And I think at this period, the reflection of the whole generation in the region was we need to change something, because this Goblet pruning system will be at one point, it will be an obstacle for us for the new type of weather and the organic conversion. So we inherited from new viticulture system already, which we was very lucky about it.
Now, you have been fortunate to get some really, really nice vineyard spots throughout those 3 appellations. What is the ongoing story about the push for some kind of recognition of Premier Cru within Beaujolais?
The new generation in Beaujolais, again, was traumatized by, I think, the crisis of Beaujolais Nouveau. And they think, and we really agree with them, that we need to get out of this crisis from the top. From the top in terms of quality and style of wines that are wines among the best wines in the world. If you want to do that, we have very close friends and cousins in Burgundy. The debate is very hot to know if Beaujolais is in Burgundy or not. I won't answer this question today, but the debate exists. And in fact, Burgundy has a big advantage. It means in the world today, it's maybe the benchmark for top quality terroir wines. And people in the world, all the wine geeks and everyone, every professional just love Burgundy because it can give you an extra interest for terroir wines, because Pinot Noir, with just one grape, will give you a big translation of the terroir. And the monks have done amazing work to just identify the best cru in Burgundy. And it means that from one side to another, the wines are completely different with the same vinification. And that's the richness of wines, of the terroirs. And we need to use that experience to push the quality to the top. And that's why a new generation Beaujolais is reason to say we need to identify our best terroirs. We need to separate our terroirs at the vinification, and then let us the chance to present some very strong identity wines to our consumers. And to do that, we are going to propose a file to the INAO, French Institution of Appellations, to recognize and have a big study on the history of each terroir, of each lieu-dit, because the study will be based on lieu-dit. It's not a matter of climat, and we don't have the notion of climat like in Burgundy. It's not the same, it's just lieu-dit. But of course, sometimes lieu-dit and climat is the same in Burgundy, so it's very close notions.
No, I was using them synonymously there, but you say it's something different within Beaujolais.
In Burgundy, you could have climats that are bigger than lieu-dit. For example, Chaize is a well-known climat, but inside Chaize you have different lieu-dit.
Of course, yeah.
And sometimes the lieu-dit are bigger than the climat. So it's different notions. It's also a big debate. But let's say that in Beaujolais, to be sure that we have a easy understanding base of work, we need to talk about the lieu-dit because it's very easy to identify on maps and in history. And the wines are really typical of the lieu-dit in Beaujolais. So the idea is that each cru will work on a separate file, and we'll have tasting. We started a few years ago. And the idea is to follow what Pouilly-Fuissé did in 2008. Pouilly-Fuissé started in 2008 and got Premier Cru in 2020. So the idea is to follow their steps and say, okay, we have 10 years, maybe 12 years of work, no problem, but we need to push every winemaker, every wine grower to separate their terroirs in terms of vinification and better understand their terroirs. And then in 12 years, maybe 15%, maybe 20% of each cru that have presented a file will be classified Premier Cru in Beaujolais, which will the best proof for the consumer that Beaujolais, again, is part of the great regions in the world in terms of great wines, with this hierarchy of wines. So that's a big process for us, very ambitious, very long, but it's not just a matter of getting to the point of Premier Cru, it's the matter of the process to push every wine growers to improve their quality and understand each terroir.
Yes, it's great that this debate is going on, because I've myself and my fellow sommelier and wine drinkers have been thinking for quite some time that there are some spots in Beaujolais that deserve a lot more recognition than they possibly currently get. I look forward to chatting with you in about 10, 12 years when you've got all of this solidified. Thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. Thank you, as we really appreciate your time, your insights into your house, Château de la Chaize, and your insights into the two wines that are currently in our market. Nicolas, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Take care.
Bye.